don't want it.
Yeah.
Then they suddenly have a shift in, okay, yes, I do want it. It takes the body a fair amount of time to actually catch up and turn.
Yeah.
So sometimes our bodies obey our psyche.
They do.
If our psyche is telling our body no, the body hears no, so it shuts down that ability, basically.
Yeah.
So when they start speaking, and I say to people all the time, start with that, speaking back into your body and telling the body yes, and really...
Manifestation really is the key to it, right? How do you manifest things, Like, how do you buy a house if you don't have a job? Sort of.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, those sorts of things are obviously, financially speaking, although I'm looking at the financially and everything we're going into, there's so much changes going on there from a psychic level. We can see there's massive changes coming into play there. Physically, we're hearing it across the board. There's a change happening right across there. That brings a lot of instability for a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of people coming into the fairs and they're asking, should I buy or should I build? All those sorts of things, And I think my general answer to that has been, hey, you're looking at, I would advise, if I'm going to advise, that you look at getting something that's already established.
And why overcommit yourself? If you're in a place of insecurity, why go back there and go, right, I'm going to go and put more jet on myself?
That's right. And when you're looking at building, you're looking at a time factor anyway, and how much is going to get shut down from lockdowns or just not being able to get the resources. I think if they're looking at moving into a different place, whether they buy or whether they build, I think just common sense, honestly, to me, and that's my common sense, so it may not be common, is to go into something established so you can move straight in. If you want to renovate, change it up, make it yours, make it yours.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But to actually go into building, go into that commitment, there's the struggle in the time factor.
I find that people's need to keep up with everybody else outweighs their logic. I mean, I know that we're psychic and we know these things, but we still have a bit of logic in how we think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So a lot of it comes down to, does it feel right? Is it right? Is it the right time? And I think people tend to try to push their destiny quicker than what it needs to be. Therefore, they just fall flat in their face rather than just going with what they think is right.
Yeah,
that's in general.
Yeah, rather than following their intuition, and that's the difference between our spirits and our psyche. Anyway, our psyche reasons. Our psyche tends to intellectualize, draw on experiences, and do all those sorts of things. Even as psychics, we've got to think through what we're actually hearing on a psychic level. When there's a spiritual push, if you like, it's more as a gut feeling or an intuition. Now, we as humans, all of us, because we have got a psyche and a mind that thinks, we can tend to rule out our intuition by thinking, oh no, this is the way it's going to go, or that's the way it's going to go, even though we've got a gut feeling of, no, you know what, that's what I should do.
Yeah.
So that's where we start to get that, I guess, the separation of the spirit and the psyche of man. Our own spirit and psyche.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, all of us can get that gut feeling and then reason our way out of it. So, and that's, I mean, generally as psychics, we've learnt, okay, what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling is correct, so I go with it, even if, even if my mind says I could be wrong, all those sorts of things get whispered.
Look, I have a lot of self-doubt sometimes when I do readings. I will sit there and I think the major thing is, but that's not what I want to hear. And people will actually say that to me. That's not right. You're not right. You don't even know what you're talking about. And I say to them, well, this is the information I'm being given, so I'm just going to tell you what I hear and what I see. And I think the other part is people think that you're on tap 24/7.
Yeah.
So, that conversation you had with me 2.5 years ago on the Wednesday the 25th, and you're like, was that me or somebody else?
Yeah, and I actually get that it is someone else. I actually do that because I've seen someone and they've seen me before, and it's kind of like, well, you were the one who said that. I'm going, I absolutely would not have said that.
Verbally, yes, but what was coming out of my mouth actually wasn't me that was actually giving you the information.
That's right, because as a psychic, you tend to pick up on what's coming through the intuition and you speak it out. I mean, I sometimes hear myself saying things, I'm thinking, that's brilliant. I wish I'd have thought of that,
Where did it come from? Because I'm sure it wasn't me.
That's right.
It must have been somebody else.
And we've sort of learnt to, because we're working that capacity, we've learnt to go with our gut intuition and what we're actually hearing on that level. So we don't tend to sit there and analyse it all. And when you get the ones that are saying that sort of thing, like, that's not what I want to hear, well, basically, I mean, I would be saying, well, do you want your ears tickled? Do you want to hear what you want to hear? Or do you want the truth?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think the most important things that I've found, predominantly this year, I think, more so, is the need to join forces with others, and not even join forces, but to work as a unified group with people to make sure things are happening rather than working as an individual, which I would have probably done before because I was working so much, doing so many things. Trusting in people a little bit more perhaps would be my next step for myself, my own thing.
Yeah.
And in general, seeing the bigger picture on, if this is not going to work for me, there's obviously a different purpose. So have a look at what's outside of my scope of thinking and start growing a little bit more in general.
I actually have a laugh at myself a lot of the time, Claudine, because I hear myself telling people things. I'm thinking, that's fantastic advice, but I don't follow it myself. Exactly. And I think that's something we as psychics need to start to do, because we would encourage people to come together and unify and all those things, and, you know, let people help you. If you need help, people love you, they're going to help you. Whereas we find ourselves in that position where we're going, no, I have to rely on my own strength. I have to go in there and try and do it myself. Yet that is not what we advise. And certainly not what we hear on a spiritual level for a lot of people.
No, you're right.
And I think, you know, a lot of people come to me. Obviously, you and I both do medium type work. A lot of people need to hear what their ancestors have got to say, what's coming forward. And I have a lot of people saying that to me, you know, what are my ancestors seeing coming in the future? I continually tell them, look, they can't see the future any more than you and I can, but they can still offer you advice the same way they could when they were living. Because they're still the same person at the end of the day. So, you can get that advice, you can get their guidance, but you can't expect those who have passed to bring you the future and tell you what's going to happen any more than you can your mate on the phone.
I find it quite funny, actually. Did a reading for a guy recently, and his grandmother had passed away, and she's sitting there going, he's doing the same thing again, here we go. And she's going, just say that to him. So I was just like, okay. So I said to him, here we go again, back to the same drawing board, doing the same thing again. The first thing he says, my grandmother used to say that to me all the time.
Yeah.
And I said, gee, funny that, because she's the one that's telling me that you're still in the same place, doing the same thing, and you're still struggling with the same problems, yet you choose not to step out of your comfort zone and make something different in your life.
Yeah, yep.
I think, and then the light bulb went off for him. Sometimes it takes you a while to get that light bulb moment, right? Where you feel like, okay, now it's time to make a change.
That's right. And I think that's where the rubber hits the road in some ways too, because a lot of people come in for readings, or they come in for advice from their guides or their ancestors or whoever. And it's when the psychic actually does that, exactly what you did there, and just speak the phrase that they hear directly, that the person then realises this isn't actually the psychic, this is actually Nan.
Yeah, exactly.
This is actually her, because that's exactly what she would say, and you're going, that's right. So her advice doesn't change, but that's when it really clicks, because they're going, this is actually not so fairy. It's literally for us as mediums.
Yeah.
Nan's actually standing in the room talking to us just as clearly as that one is.
So at the same time when I was giving him the information, he could smell cigarette smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, oh, that's that perfume I buy for her all the time. And I'm like, right, so does that solidify and sort of confirm that she's here going, she needs to slap you across the head, because most of the time that's what she would do, or rustle your hair, and then you would go, okay, I'm going to do this now.
Yeah, yep.
So, and I feel like she gave him quite a bit of good information about how to rekindle his relationship, because a lot of people had lost that connection with their partners.
Yeah.
And lost connection with family itself, because he was doing FIFO, but then obviously lost his job. Coming back now having to face the reality of being in a family and having to be with them day to day and face his wife's dramas and problems. So I think those were a lot of recognisable things that needed to be brought up anyway.
That's
I think
right.
It's quite funny how grandparents come out with randoms that are so funny, aren't they?
But, they're drawing, and again, they're drawing on their own life experience and their knowledge of the personalities that they're dealing with, which us as a psychic, we just don't know. I mean, you don't know that guy and his real day-to-day living, you know. He comes in here, he's coming in here for a purpose. So you don't necessarily get the absolute fullness of his personality, whereas Nan knows it.
Yeah.
And her advice is coming from her own life experiences, her understanding of the family and all that's going on, so she can offer that advice. And that's where it really hits for people who are coming in to see mediums and psychics. It's like, this is real.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of them have been going to other people that haven't really been giving that connection for them.
Yeah, and I think that probably happens. I mean, who of any of us doesn't have those moments where we flounder around and try and make the message sound more for our own minds? You know, we're hearing something, we're going, well, that doesn't really make sense, I'm going to clear it up. Yeah. If we just spoke exactly what we heard, then exactly that sort of situation, yep, that's Nan, that's definitely what she would say. And although it's not what we necessarily would click with, we try to change it. And I think that happens with a lot of psychics. There is that performance pressure, if you like. And a lot of them they lose it in that. And as soon as we start trying to reason and rationalise in our own minds, we actually lose the essence of the message that's coming through.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So I think, as of now, look, I do think that we'll be travelling by August, September next year.
Right.
I believe that there's a lot of big changes still to come that we haven't seen yet. So, unfortunately, I don't think our economy is going to be the greatest. To be honest, by January, February, I think there's going to be there's still a lot of closures out there financially for businesses. I think people are sort of trying to bank on trying to make money while they can, but I still think it's a bit of risky business to start throwing your money out there randomly at this point in time. I just hold on to as much as I could.
Yeah, yep. I know it's a very, very tough topic to go into because, of course, we're going to, for me personally, then I'd be touching on what prophecies have to say and that sort of thing. And I don't know if this is the forum for that. But basically, I think that if we're going to put something in the bank, if we're going to try and build up in anything, it really should be in relationship and a preparedness.
Yeah.
You know, I know it happened in other countries. I think for Spain was one of them. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not that good with that sort of thing. But when things got really bad economically, they actually took from all their citizens. They actually took to pay back that sort of thing. And that is actually prophetically stated that this is going to happen. The economy is...
But that's taxes, right? We pay taxes for that.
They were taking it anyway. People with mortgages and that sort of thing could find that because they're owing so much, they actually repossess.
Yeah.
I think that at this point in time, because of the instability of all of that sort of stuff, the instability of the economy, and we really need to be putting our treasures, if you prefer, into relationship and preparedness for, look, anything can happen, so therefore I'm prepared for anything. Scripturally, it says be prepared or be ready in and out of season.
Yeah.
So we've always got that in the background. We don't live in fear. We make sure that we've set everything up properly. We move forward and hope for our future. We move into those things. But with the background knowledge of, you know what, anything can happen and I want to be ready either way.
Yeah, and be self-sufficient. I think really when you think about it, you need to start looking at it as... if they're not there, then I can create this myself. I have the financial backing myself. If not, then I need to cut back on all these frivolous activities and things that I don't really need and start making sacrifices in order to have a genuinely balanced and happy life rather than just trying to keep up with the Joneses quite often.
Yeah, go back to more of the natural type stuff.
Yeah.
Going back to, as you say, being self-sufficient. I mean, this world has become 99% of people are in debt.
Yeah.
We should be focusing on getting ourselves into a position where we are self-sufficient, we are able to take care of what we've got in front of us, our families, our loved ones, our friends, those sorts of things, building up those sorts of things and making sure it's all there.
Yeah.
So no matter what happens financially, if you like, there's a network, there's a unity in what's going on in your own family unit. So, you know what, if things do fall apart, then this one can provide that one's got that, this, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, way back when they were trading in wares, if you like. I need, I don't know, let's say I need
Like
carrots to
kibbutz.
go with my potatoes. You've
Yeah.
got carrots, I'll give you some potatoes, and that sort of thing.
Remember the kibbutz where they used to say people used to live in joint living and then they'd share everything?
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure whether we still have that.
I don't know. No, well, I think it's because of everything that's come into play, and again, it's governmentally, GST, all those sorts of things, all mounting, and because we all owe, we have to make the money. But we can look at as much as we can going back into trading, those sorts of things. Look, you know
I
what?
totally agree.
I can do plumbing.